Hello YouTube, StuckInAPool here with some more Fire Emblem Heroes stuff for you today. So in today's video, I'm going to start another series of quick videos. These are going to be a little shorter. I promise I'll stop getting into new series soon, and I'm going to expand on some of the old ones and do some more like one-off videos. For example, after this one, I think I'd like to start looking at more underrated heroes, so that might be the next thing I do, depending on what kind of happens in the upcoming days and weeks. And so, anyway, the point of this series that I'm going to be starting today is basically to look at the arena bonus units that are available. So basically the way the arena works, if you're newer, if you don't have a bonus unit, your score is literally going to be cut in half. And that's basically going to sink any chance that you had to move up to the next tier. Fortunately, the most recent heroes off the newest banners are always bonus units, so if you get one of them, you're good. Unfortunately, you might not be lucky enough to roll one of them, or you may be out of orbs, so you didn't try, or maybe you're saving them up for another banner, so you're holding off. Whatever your reason, if you don't have one of those units, you could always try Alphonse, Shireen, or Anna, but honestly, if you haven't built them up to 5 stars, I wouldn't really blame you. Or if you're out of feathers and you literally can't so quickly build them up, then that's not really an option either. Honestly, right now, they're really not considered that good unless you invest pretty heavily into them, so I wouldn't blame you if you haven't built them up. So, if you do end up in this situation and you have to pick one of the units that's not a starter and not a new unit, then these videos are kind of going to be aimed at helping you out directly if you find yourself scrambling to build one of those units up for that arena season. Personally, I don't feel the need to even discuss the brand new heroes anyway, because if you watch heroes videos here on YouTube, I'm usually a bit slower getting videos out. I work a lot, and I don't have a lot of time to sit down and go over new stuff. That's why you probably notice I mostly just talk about general stuff, not like news. There are a lot of other content creators out there, you know, Phoenix Master, Sacred Spirit, Rotel, Dire Thunder, everyone else. They get on the new stuff a lot quicker than I do. They'll discuss them as in depth as I would, if not more so. So if that's what you're wanting, go to them. And if you have one of those new units and you want build ideas for them, then those are the kind of videos you can find, and you can find those like immediately after the units come out, if not before they come out, thanks to data mine and stuff like that. So basically for this video, I'm going to talk about each unit from the list, minus the aforementioned exceptions, and how they generally function based on their stats and their base kits. Then I'll go through a couple builds that attempt to utilize their base kits and functions as much as possible, so you can build them with less grinding and less SI fodder, which should help you get them ready in time before the season ends if you don't really, have the time to grind a lot and all the resources to throw at the game. So at the time I'm recording this, it's currently Monday around noon, and the arena season is pretty close to ending, just a few hours left. I assume we're going to have the same bonus units going into the next season, because there aren't any new units coming out for several more days. So that being said, I think it's safe to say your arena bonus units for this reset are Vanguard Ike, Love Abounds Roy, Love Abounds Alina, Love Abounds Hector, Love Abounds Lynn, Walter, Lloyd, Soren, Tharja, and Alphonse. So of course I'm not going to be talking about the top row at all, and I'm not going to be talking about Alphonse, we talked about that. So that leaves the 4 that I'm going to be talking about, Walter, Lloyd, Soren, and Tharja. So starting from the left. So Walter, he's a strong offensive presence, thanks to his Cursed Lance offensive and special boosts that he gets. He also comes with Luna, Darting Blow, and Panic Ploy. Luna works pretty well with his reduced cooldown effect, but Glimmer and Moonbow are also strong options as well, particularly if you're going to ditch Darting Blow and kind of go towards a more enemy phase build and you want him to charge it up after one attack and he's not going to have as much speed, all that. Darting Blow does work well if you want to make him more of a player phase unit, obviously, but Fury's a good option, and it synergizes really well with his weapon because it'll make him take a lot more chip damage and help him hit those low health threshold skills like Vantage. Panic Ploy is certainly a good skill. It's definitely a valuable skill. Unfortunately, his health isn't quite high enough to lean on it that heavily. Unless you try to boost his health somehow, it's not necessarily worth it to hang on to. It'll definitely work against glass cannons, but it's not going to help you against tanks at all. In fact, it synergizes particularly poorly with the Fury set, as he'll be in the low HP range all the time, with the exception of the beginning of the fight, so he'll never really be able to make use of it. So I would either A, keep Panic Ploy, and I would give him Renewal as a B slot skill to make up for the chip damage, keep Darting Blow, maybe take something else to boost his HP like a Seal, or B, you could just ditch Panic Ploy altogether, go Fury Vantage, and that way Volter will be at low health most of the time, but with Vantage, he'll be able to hit pretty hard, especially if he has Luna charged, and I would put Threat and Defense on him, because that way, he's going to be doing a little more damage on enemy phase and with that Vantage hit, so it might help him survive a little better. Overall, I just really like the Fury, Vantage, Threaten Defense, or Threaten Res set. I think it's really cool. But if you really want to invest in Vulture, actually, just thinking about it, I feel like a Brazen Attack Speed and Wrath combo might actually work really well for him, because that threshold would be pretty easy to hit. Next unit we have Lloyd. So Lloyd is he has a unique stat spread. Makes him tanky magically, but frail physically. His sword's effective attack and speed +2 against full health enemies is really helpful, but not nearly as powerful as some of the other sword infantry units, special weapons. He also comes with Iceberg, which does mesh well with his good resistance, and Pass and Threaten Attack. Pass is just kind of silly and probably only useful for like mean cavalry builds. Threaten Attack is actually really helpful. It allows him to tank magic units, and it's definitely worth hanging on to. It's kind of tempting to think about a ploy skill for the C and S slot for Lloyd, but without access to IVs, he's only sitting at 30. So unless you plan on giving him Fury, which is still going to make it a bit hard for him to hit the res high enough for ploys, or Fortress Resistance, if you just want to make him a true tank, he won't be doing nearly as much damage. I would avoid the ploys. However, if you're blessed with Hectors, Lloyd would love Distant Counter. But honestly, where the meta is now, even without it, just being able to fight back against dragons, it's still pretty valuable. So I would either A, run Fury and Renewal, along with a close defense seal, help him tank dragons and hopefully throw out some icebergs and eventually take him down. It'll still take a little while, but it could work. Or B, I would give him the typical Distant Counter, Quicker Post combo, along with the Distant Defense seal, and let him just bait mages. It may not be the most creative set, but it definitely works. The only issue with Lloyd being designed as a dragon fighter, though, is that one of 2 green dragons is built to nullify his speed, which is actually pretty good. And the other is fast enough that if she's built correctly, he won't be able to double her anyway. So, it's a good build, but he's kind of a bad color for it, I guess. As for Ploy Lloyd, if you really want to try it, you could actually give him the Res +3 Sacred Seal, thinking about it now. That might work pretty well. But anyway, moving on to our next unit, we have Soren. I've often seen Soren called a worse Nino, but I think I'd actually say he's a slightly more versatile, while less offensively gifted Nino, to be more specific. He has the stats and typing to be a typical horse meta check, the Lyn Reinhardt counter, but like most good builds with Soren, it's going to take investment. So he comes with Rex Caliber, which it's a strong tome, but it has no inherent effects, so really, if you want to build Soren, it's worth considering replacing it. Most would go with a Blade Tome, which is why so many would actually just rather use Nino because she comes with it. But he could also make good use of Raven or Altoon, probably. His defense is pretty bad, but his resistance is really nothing to sneeze at. It's higher than Nino's, which means he can actually be a decent mage tank. He also comes with Water Sweep and Fortify Resistance. Overall, his base kit is just a bit too weird to stick with. Water Sweep's odd because he's fast, but he's not quite fast enough to use it without Phantom Speed, and he would really only need it against bows and daggers, which is kind of an ill-advised fight for him anyway because his defense is pretty bad, so he won't be able to take most of them down in one hit, and then they'll counterattack him and do a lot of damage, so I don't know. I don't think Water Sweep's a really good idea overall, but definitely not good for Soren. Fortify Resistance is an okay skill, but as a high-res tank, he wants the resistance. He doesn't really want to raise his allies' resistance. So of these 4 units, he's probably the one that needs the most work. I'd either A, keep his Tome and C slot, if you want to be a little more budget. Give him Triangle, that's a green Tome Breaker. That'll allow him to easily check a lot of the strong blue and green mages, which are, probably the stronger, most common mages in the meta. Or you could B, give him a Blade Tome and the old Fury Desperation combo. The former, he may not do quite as much damage, but he can tank, like I said, most of the main mage threats. The latter, though, he's basically just a slower version of Nino. So, I don't know. It's kind of up to you whether you find it worth it to build it when you know Nino's just going to have a step up on him on speed. Of course, you could also give him the typical Raven, Triangle Debt, Bowbreaker combo, like I mentioned. That's pretty cookie cutter, too. One build, if you do want to make him a little different, that I would consider, give him Fury and Renewal, and then an upgraded Altoon. And I think that would be a pretty potent combo for an enemy phase Soren, since like I said, he's a pretty good mage check. The last unit we're going to talk about here is Tharja. So Tharja is also one of the lucky ones that she has a pretty strong base kit to start with. She's built as a fairly strong, fairly fast Blade Tome unit with pretty bad defense and resistance, so she's usually all in on player phase. Because of this, the Blade Tome and Darting Blow combo that she comes with is definitely worth keeping. Her other skills, Vengeance and Spur Resistance, are certainly not necessary to replace, but they probably won't help you a whole lot. Her health is okay, and since she usually wants Desperation in her B slot, Vengeance kind of synergizes since she's often going to be low HP. Spur Resistance is also okay if you have someone else on your team that you want to tank magic hits that you can just sit next to her. So my thinking for options for quick builds for Thardra basically come down to what you want to replace skill-wise or what her IVs are. So you could either A, go the typical Fury Desperation, make her hit a bit harder, and have somewhat more of an enemy phase with higher defenses, in exchange for a bit of speed on the player phase, or you could B, keep Darting Blow, make her 100% player phase, and again go with Desperation because she'll be fast enough that after that first fight, if you want to keep using her, she can proc Desperation, and that's always nice. The choice mostly comes down to whichever stat needs patching up more, honestly. If she's plus attack, then Darting Blow is probably a better option because she'll need a little more speed. If she's plus speed, then Fury's a good option because it'll help her hit a little bit harder. But then again, you can kind of use this seal to patch her up as you need to as well. If you do run Fury, Vengeance is actually a workable option, but Glimmer is definitely a strong option as well on Blade Tomes, just because that extra attack is, definitely works well with Glimmer. Her C slot and the Sacred Seal slot are pretty flexible and kind of, like I said, depend on what stat you want to patch up or boost the most and what function she wants to serve on her team. So these are just some quick rundowns and builds for the next arena season, assuming they don't get changed up at last second, but I don't see that happening. I hope I can keep this going for future seasons to maybe help out anyone who has ever found themselves scrambling to build up a bonus unit, like I have. So, I do hope you have good luck on your summons and get those new units you want though, and never even need these videos. Either way, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope maybe you learned something. Mostly, I hope to see you in the next video. Bye guys.